Hey everyone, this is Josh for another episode of Talent Tips. I am here with Martin Hauck. Martin, thanks so much for coming on the show today.
No, thanks for having me, Josh.
Martin, can you start just by doing a quick intro, a little bit more about yourself and where you're working?
Yeah, sure. I am the head of talent acquisition at Caseware. We are a accounting and audit SaaS platform. Been around for about 30 years and just gone through a pretty big branding refresh, which is exciting. And yeah, no, I've been there for about a year and a half. And in the evenings and weekends, I also run a community of HR and recruitment professionals called the People Group.
Awesome. I love the name. And great. So Martin, our next question, our biggest question is, can you please share 3 tips for aspiring immigrants who are hoping to land a job with a Canadian company?
Yeah, for sure. So I think some of my tips are applicable to anyone, really, but there's still things that I see getting missed by folks that are in Canada, as well as folks that are looking to come to Canada. So the spaghetti at the wall approach of reaching out to people, and maybe you've heard this one before, but I call it the spaghetti on the wall approach of just sending the same copy paste message to whoever you want to get the attention of. It doesn't work well, right? And that means for someone who is looking to connect with people, you have to connect with intention, and you should be specific about why you're connecting, and you should try to be as personable as possible. And what's funny is it's the same thing for recruiters, in the sense that when you're reaching out to candidates that you want their attention, you have to do the exact same thing, right? You have to be personal. You want to use the person's name. You might want to mention the day that you're reaching out to them. You might want to look at their LinkedIn profile or their online profile, wherever you're messaging them, and mention something interesting. You don't, just because, you didn't go to the same university as the individual doesn't mean you don't have any common bonds or anything. If you find something interesting about that person's profile, call it out. Say, hey, I thought, the work that you're doing at the People Group sounds really interesting. I'm looking to immigrate to Canada. I'd love to talk more to you about, some of the challenges that you've seen. Something specific, something sweet, something short, I think is important as well. Mm-hmm. I think typically if a message is longer than, if I'm looking at a message on my cell phone and I have to scroll to read it, then it's probably too long. You want to start a conversation. You don't want to just copy and paste all the information, even though it feels like it's convenient for the person to review at their own. You actually want to start a dialogue, right? And a dialogue starts the same way as this podcast started. It's like, hey, who are you and what do you do? That kind of thing, right? I mean, I think I put a whole bunch of tips into one there. So if that's too much and we're good, then I'm happy to stop there.
Yeah, totally up to you. There's a lot of little tidbits in there that we can take a lot out of. If there's one or two more you want to share, by all means. Or otherwise, if there's any specific roles or job openings that you guys are looking to fill at Caseware, we're love to hear more about some of those.
Sure. Yeah. So, I mean, one more tip, I think, in terms of, and it's related to networking, is like typically people, or at least from my perspective, people will reach out and they will say, hey, I'd love to learn more about these opportunities. But a lot of times the people that can help you aren't necessarily in the obvious places. So reaching out to a recruiter or an HR person is an obvious person to reach out to and network with. But I think another opportunity is to network with people who have just gone through the experience of immigrating to Canada. And that might not be as obvious to find, but there are communities, there are groups that exist out there that you can connect with. And I think building a connection with people who have just recently gone through that process, they'll be able to, point you in the right direction and give you some good tips as well.
Yeah, and they're probably not getting 100 other the same messages per day as well. So
exactly.
Easier to slide into the inbox.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah. In terms of, what we're hiring for right now, I think every department at Caseware is hiring right now. We've got about 86 to I'm in 80 to 90 roles right now. It changes kind of day to day, and they're across all departments. We've got a data analytics team, we've got a broader technology team, we've got 6 or 7 different product lines with different tech stacks. So engineering hiring and developer hiring is a big focus for us. Big surprise, we're a SaaS company. I'm sure that's no shock to anyone. We've got some interesting product roles open right now as well, and I think every company has that purple squirrel or that unicorn candidate that's like super difficult to find. But at Caseware, we really love hiring folks with a background in accounting, finance, or audit, who are looking to sort of transition out of the practice of accounting or audit and moving into a tech company. And folks with that background and perspective are really helpful on the product team, because they can help inform, what our strategy is, how the product is built. And that isn't just specific to Canada necessarily. We've actually got a pretty good in-depth understanding of the Canadian market, but Caseware's product is a global product. And so having people that understand, the nuances of accounting in specific, in Europe or Africa and in places like that, that's really helpful as well. So that's kind of like a niche background. So it might not seem apparent, but those are obviously, candidates with that background are interesting to us as well. And I love when they reach out and say like, hey, I've heard of your product, I've used your product for years, I just want to get into the tech industry, and they sort of shoot their shot. And like that I see emails come across every once in a while, and it's very infrequent. If that could happen more often because of this podcast and someone sees it, I would be super happy.
Awesome. That's good to know, and we'll include a link to the careers page in the description below as well. Martin, can you give a shout out to someone in the Canadian HR talent, recruitment, or people space? You run a community, so there's probably a bunch, but just
a million people. Yeah. One person. This feels dangerous. Like I'm gonna get a bunch of messages from folks who are like, why didn't you mention me? Can I mention a few people or?
Sure. Yeah.
Okay. Well, Sarah Cooper over at Jobber. I'm just very grateful for her kind of just entertaining me as an individual, reaching out to her and saying like, hey, I'm looking for some mentorship. And she's always been super gracious with her time. She's doing incredible things at Jobber and did amazing things at Elmer's as well. Really respect her and her wisdom there. And another person that just immediately, when I read the question, sort of like gut reaction, I kind of share this, like Alexis Mcdonald at Lupio, the work that she's done with Lupio, it feels like they've built the most popular culture, not popular, like the healthiest, most progressive, this is an awesome place to work culture, at least, from what I've seen and from what I've heard and in conversations with them. And, every time I talk to Alexis, it's always just super motivating and like, oh man, I gotta level up my game here. So
awesome. You only kept it to 2. Impressive.
I mean, I'll keep going. I'm happy to keep going. I'm worried about the outcomes here. So
I'm worried if I let you keep going, we might not end, Martin.
Yeah, no, for sure. Yeah.
Maybe for another time. Martin, Thanks so much for coming. The tips were great. The shout outs were great. If anybody wants to get in touch with you or learn more about the company, where do you recommend they go?
LinkedIn, yeah. And they'll message me on LinkedIn. I'll probably say, hey, let's flip over to email. It's really backwards, but it keeps things organized for me there. Or you can follow me on Twitter at one Hauck, which is Hauck.
Awesome. We'll link to those in the description. Martin, thanks again for coming on the show. Really appreciate it.
Awesome. Thanks, Josh.